A single father lives a quiet routine, focused on caring for his daughter. One early morning, a woman appears at his door, desperately asking for help. Upon receiving her, he is confronted with a reality that changes the course of their lives. Before hearing this incredible story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories. 3 o'clock in the morning. The sound of hurried knocking echoes through the silent dawn of the working-class neighborhood, waking Mark from a deep sleep. He slowly gets up, still groggy, trying not to make noise so as not to wake Anna, his 8-year-old daughter who sleeps in the next room. The sound of the knocking becomes more urgent, more desperate. Mark walks to the living room window and peeks through the faded curtain. A feminine figure stands before his door, hunched over as if carrying an invisible weight on her shoulders. The faint light from the street lamp reveals crumpled clothes and a posture that screams despair. Who could it be at this hour? He murmurs to himself, running a hand through his dark, disheveled hair. As a city council sanitation worker, Mark is used to waking up early, but 3 in. The morning is too early even by his standards. There's something in the insistence of those knocks that makes him hesitate. It's not the first time someone has knocked on his door asking for help, but never at this hour. He approaches the door but doesn't open it immediately. 5 years of life as a single father had taught him to be cautious. Ever since his wife Rose passed away in a car accident, he and Anna had built a simple and safe routine: work, school, Sunday pancakes, and cartoons. An ordinary life, but full of love and mutual care. "Please." A feminine voice comes through the wooden door, laden with urgency and fear. "I need help. I saw the sticker on your truck." Mark frowns. The sticker. He had put that domestic violence support sticker on the back of his old pickup truck 3 years ago in honor of Rose, who always said they needed to help those in vulnerable situations. The sticker had faded with time, but it was still visible. "Daddy!" Anna's soft voice echoes down the hallway. "What's happening?" Mark turns to find his daughter in pink pajamas, rubbing her sleepy eyes. Her brown hair is messy and she holds her worn teddy bear against her chest. "There's someone at the door, sweetheart," he whispers, crouching down to her eye level. "Go back to your room, please." Anna watches him with a seriousness that sometimes surprises Mark. For an 8-year-old, she shows a maturity that leaves him simultaneously proud and worried. Perhaps it's a result of having lost her mother so early and having lived only with him since then. "Daddy," she says softly, touching his hand. "What would Mommy do?" The question hits Mark like a punch to the stomach. Rose always said the same thing when they encountered someone in need. "We help others, Mark. That's what makes us human." It was her mantra, her philosophy of life. She never hesitated to reach out to those in need. The knocking grows weaker, as if the person on the other side is losing strength. Mark feels his chest tighten. He knows Rose would never forgive him if he turned his back on someone in despair, especially a woman who was clearly in danger. "Go back to your room, Anna," he repeats, but now his voice carries determination. "Daddy will help." Anna smiles, a small but approving smile, and walks back down the hallway. Mark watches until she disappears into the darkness of the room, then turns to the door. He slowly unlocks the door, keeping the security chain in place. He opens it just a crack, enough to see the woman's face on the other side. What he sees leaves him speechless. Her face is marked by purple bruises that have already begun to yellow at the edges, indicating they were sustained a few days ago. There's a dry cut on her lower lip and another on her forehead. Her clothes, which must have once been elegant, are crumpled and stained. But it's her eyes that most catch Mark's attention, green, bright with unshed tears, but filled with a fierce determination that contrasts with her fragile appearance. "Please," she repeats, and now Mark can see how her voice trembles. "I have nowhere to go. I saw the sticker on your truck and I thought maybe you would understand." Mark hesitates for only a second. All his protective instincts scream at him to keep the door closed, to protect the sanctuary he had built for Anna. But the image of Rose appears in his mind, smiling with that warm way she had, saying there was always room for one more person at the table. He removes the chain and opens the door completely. "Come in," he says simply. The woman stumbles slightly as she crosses the threshold, as if her legs are weak. Mark instinctively extends his arm to steady her, and she accepts the support with a whispered "thank you." "Thank you," she murmurs, and Mark notices an educated quality in her voice, a refinement that contrasts with her current appearance. "I don't know how to thank you." "No need to thank me yet," Mark replies, closing and locking the door again. "Sit on the sofa, I'll get some water." He guides her to the small living room, where a faded blue sofa dominates the space along with an old television and a bookshelf full of children's books and Anna's drawings. The woman sits on the edge of the sofa, as if afraid to settle in completely. Mark goes to the kitchen and fills a glass with filtered water. His hands tremble slightly, not from fear, but from the adrenaline of having made such an impulsive decision. He doesn't know this. Woman doesn't know where she came from or what kind of trouble brought her to his door. But something in her vulnerability, hidden behind that determined posture, struck a sensitive chord in his heart. When he returns to the living room, the woman is looking around with respectful curiosity. Her eyes fall on Anna's drawings taped to the wall, colourful stick figures representing her, Mark, and, always present, a third feminine figure that Anna insists on including in all her drawings. "You have a daughter," she observes, not as a question. "Anna, 8 years old," Mark confirms, handing her the glass. "She's sleeping." The woman drinks the water slowly, as if savouring each sip. "I'm sorry for showing up like this, in the middle of the night. I had nowhere else to go." Mark sits in the armchair opposite the sofa, maintaining a respectful distance. "What's your name?" "Helen," she replies after a pause. "Helen Miller." The name sounds familiar to Mark, but he can't place where he's heard it before. Perhaps in a newspaper or on the news. There's something about Helen that suggests she doesn't belong in this working-class neighborhood. Something in the way she sits, even, bruised and scared, that indicates a life very different from his own. "What happened to you, Helen?" She lowers her eyes to the empty glass in her hands. "It's a long story." "We have time," Mark replies gently. "The sun won't rise for a few more hours." Helen watches him for a long moment, as if evaluating whether she can trust him. Mark waits patiently. 5 years of raising Anna alone had taught him the value of silence, patience, and giving people the time they need. "I was driving," Helen begins slowly. "Coming back from a late-night work meeting, my car started making a strange noise. Then the brakes just stopped working. I hit a pole, but it wasn't serious, at least it shouldn't have been." She unconsciously touches the bruise on her face. "But when I woke up in the hospital, the questions started. Why was my car having brake problems? Why did no one from my company come to visit me? Why did my ex-husband show up pretending concern, but with asset transfer papers in hand?" Mark frowns. "Asset transfer?" "I'm a businesswoman," Helen explains, and now there's a note of wounded pride in her voice. "I have a sustainable solutions company. I built everything from scratch. I've worked for 15 years to get where I am. But my ex-husband, Victor Carmichael, never accepted our divorce. He wants the company, he wants custody of my daughter, he wants everything." "You have a daughter." "Clara. She's 9 years old and is living with my sister in the capital city while I sort this situation out." Helen's eyes fill with tears. "She can't see me like this. She can't know what's happening." Mark feels an immediate connection. He knows the weight of protecting a child, of trying to maintain normalcy, when the world around you is collapsing. "And you think the accident wasn't accidental?" "I'm sure it wasn't," Helen replies with conviction. "Victor has connections, he has money, he has influence, and I have proof that he tampered with my car, but no one believes me. They say I'm stressed, paranoid, that I need psychological help." She stands up abruptly, beginning to pace around the small room. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't be telling you all this. I shouldn't be here. I didn't know what else to do." "Why didn't you go to the police?" Helen laughs, but it's a bitter laugh. "I did. 3 times. Victor got there before me every time with his lawyers, his contacts. He planted the seed that I'm an unstable woman, that I don't accept the divorce, that I'm creating situations to get attention, and it worked." Mark absorbs this information in silence. He may not understand the corporate world or the complexities of relationships between rich and influential people, but he understands a parent's desperation to protect their child, and he sees that same desperation in Helen's eyes. "Where have you been living since the accident?" "In a hotel downtown." "But today, Victor showed up there." "I don't know how he found out where I was, but he was in the lobby when I went down for dinner. I ran out, got in the car, and drove without a destination until I ended up in this neighborhood." She looks around again. "I saw the sticker on your truck and I thought maybe you would understand what it's like to need help." Mark remains silent for a long moment, processing everything Helen told him. There's a part of him that questions the veracity of the story. It's so dramatic, so different from his everyday reality. But there's something in the way she speaks, in the genuine pain in her eyes, that convinces him she's telling the truth. "You can stay here tonight," he says finally. "Tomorrow we'll talk about what to do." Helen looks at him with surprise, as if she didn't expect that answer. "You don't even know me." "No," Mark agrees, "but I know what it's like to need help and have nowhere to go." He gets up and walks to a small closet in the hallway, from which he takes out clean sheets and a pillow. "The sofa isn't the most comfortable, but it's what we have." "It's perfect," Helen whispers, and for the first time since she arrived, she smiles. It's a small, fragile, but genuine smile. "Thank you, Mark. You don't know how much this means." Mark just nods and begins to make up the sofa for her. As he works, he feels the weight of Helen's gaze on him, as if she's trying to understand what kind of man welcomes a stranger in the middle of the night. "Why are you doing this?" she asks softly. Mark stops tidying the sheets and looks her in the eyes. "Because my wife taught me that we help others. That's what makes us human." Helen lowers her eyes, and Mark sees a tear roll down her bruised cheek. "Your wife is a wise woman." "She was," Mark gently corrects. "She passed away 5 years ago." The silence that follows is laden with mutual understanding. Two adults carrying their own losses, their own struggles, finding a moment of connection in the silent early morning. "Get some rest," Mark says, finishing making the makeshift bed. "Tomorrow we'll see what we can do." When Mark finally returns to his room, he finds Hannah sitting on his bed, clearly waiting for him. "Is the woman okay, Daddy?" "She is, sweetheart. She just needs a place to sleep tonight." Anna hugs him tightly. "You did the right thing, Daddy. Mommy would be proud." Mark kisses his daughter's forehead, feeling his heart tighten with love and concern. He hopes he made the right decision, hopes his need to help hasn't put Anna in danger. But as he listens to the soft sounds of Helen settling in the living room, he feels that Rose would approve of his choice. The aroma of fresh coffee wakes Helen. The next morning, for a moment she doesn't know where she is. The soft light filtering through the simple curtains confuses her. Then the memories of the night before return like a wave. The despair, the escape, the unexpected kindness of a man she doesn't even know. She slowly sits up on the sofa, feeling the aches in her body protest against the movement. The bruises seem more vivid in the daylight, but she feels safer than she has in weeks. There's something in the simplicity of that house, in the smell of coffee and the distant sound of a child playing, that calms her. "Good morning." Mark appears at the living room entrance holding 2 cups of coffee. He's already dressed in his sanitation worker's uniform, a faded orange shirt and sturdy trousers. "Did you sleep well?" "Better than I expected," Helen admits, accepting the cup he offers her. The coffee is strong, unsweetened, exactly how she liked it before her life turned upside down. "Thank you again for taking me in." Mark sits in the armchair, maintaining the same respectful distance as the night before. "How are your pains?" "Bearable." Helen unconsciously touches the bruise on her forehead. "I've been worse." The frankness of her reply surprises even herself. There's something about Mark that inspires honesty. Perhaps it's his calm way of listening, without judgment or intrusive questions. "Daddy, can I meet the visitor?" Anna's voice echoes down the hallway before she appears in the living room, already dressed in her school uniform, a white blouse and a navy blue skirt. Her hair is tied in 2 braids that Mark clearly did with care, though not with much skill. "Anna, this is Helen," Mark makes the introductions. Helen, my daughter Anna. Anna approaches with the natural curiosity of children, but without the tactlessness many possess. She observes Helen's bruises without comment, as if instinctively understanding they are a delicate matter. Good morning, Helen. Do you want breakfast? Daddy makes the best pancakes in the world. Helen smiles, a genuine smile that lights up her bruised face. I'd love to, but I don't want to cause any trouble. It's not trouble, Anna replies seriously. It's hospitality. Mommy always said that welcoming visitors kindly is important. Mark and Helen exchange a meaningful look. The child speaks of her mother naturally, keeping her memory alive in a healthy way. Then, I accept with pleasure, Helen says. Can I help? You're hurt, Anna observes gently. Injured people need to rest. Daddy and I will take care of everything. For the next 40 minutes, Helen observes a morning routine that is both ordinary and extraordinary. Mark prepares pancakes with efficient movements, while Anna sets the table and tells school stories. There is a harmony between father and daughter that speaks of years of practice, of a partnership built on mutual need for care. Helen, Anna says as she devours her second pancake, do you have children? I have a daughter, Clara. She's a little older than you. Where is she? Mark gently intervenes. Anna, remember the rule about personal questions. Sorry, Anna says, but remains curious. It would be nice to have a friend to play with. She's living with my sister for a while, Helen explains, feeling her chest tighten. 3 weeks without seeing Clara, without knowing how she's reacting to her mother's absence. But maybe you'll meet soon. After breakfast, Mark drives Anna to school in his old but sturdy pickup truck. Helen is left alone in the house for the first time, and it's then that the reality of her situation fully hits her. She walks through the small living room, observing details she hadn't noticed the night before. Photos of Anna at various ages smile from the shelves, along with some of Mark and a beautiful woman with brown hair and a warm smile, clearly Rose. There are no recent photos of the complete family, only memories of a time that won't return. Anna's drawings on the wall catch her attention again. In all of them, without exception, there are 3 figures: a tall man, a small girl, and a woman. Sometimes the woman has wings, sometimes she's on a cloud, but always present. Anna found a way to keep her mother part of the family, even in her absence. Helen feels tears burn her eyes. It's been 5 years since she last saw Clara draw the complete family. Since the troubled divorce, Victor Carmichael had managed to plant seeds of doubt in the girl's mind, making her question her mother's emotional stability. When Mark returns, an hour later, he finds Helen sitting at the kitchen table with her cell phone turned off in front of her. Problems, he asks, noticing her tense expression. 17 missed calls from Victor, Helen replies. 5 text messages, all saying he knows where I am and that I'll regret fleeing my responsibilities. Mark frowns and sits opposite her. How could he know where you are? He has resources. Private investigators, contacts in phone companies. When you have enough money, privacy becomes an illusion. Helen laughs bitterly. The ironic thing is, I used to live in that world too. I never imagined it would one day be used against me. Tell me more about your company, Mark asks. Yesterday you said you work with sustainable solutions. Helen hesitates as if unaccustomed to explaining her work to someone outside the corporate environment. I develop technologies for waste reduction in industrial processes. I started small, working in a rented garage, developing more efficient filters for water treatment. Today we have contracts with several inland towns. That's impressive. It was, Helen corrects. Victor is using the custody battle over Clara to question my mental sanity, and that's affecting client confidence. 3 contracts have already been cancelled in the last week. Mark absorbs this information in silence. He may not understand the complexities of the business world, but he understands manipulation and abuse of power. What does he gain by destroying your company? Control, Helen replies without hesitation. If I lose the company, I lose financial independence. If I lose independence, I become dependent on him to care for Clara. And if I'm emotionally unstable, he gets full custody. And the accident? Helen gets up and walks to the window, looking out at the quiet street of the working-class neighborhood. Children play on the sidewalk, women chat at their doorsteps, men leave for work, a normalcy she lost long ago. The mechanic who examined my car said the brakes were sabotaged, she says, softly. Precise cuts in the hydraulic system, made by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. But when the police went to check, mysteriously the report disappeared, and the mechanic changed his story. Victor bought his silence. Or he intimidated him. Victor is very good at finding people's weaknesses. Helen turns to Mark, and there's a raw vulnerability in her eyes. I have hidden documents, recordings of conversations, evidence of his blackmail. But I'm afraid to use them. I'm afraid of what he might do to Clara if I confront him directly. Mark approaches her slowly, as if she were a wounded animal that might flee at any moment. Where are these documents? In a safe deposit box at another bank, in another town. Victor doesn't know about the existence of this safe deposit box. Helen smiles sadly. Rose taught me a few things about keeping emergency resources hidden back when we were friends. Mark stops walking. You knew Rose. Helen looks at him in surprise. Yes. It wasn't a coincidence that I ended up here, Mark. Rose and I were friends for 10 years. We worked together on a water purification project for underprivileged communities. She always talked about you and Anna. The silence that follows is laden with emotion. Mark feels as if a benevolent ghost had guided Helen to his door. She spoke of you with so much love, Helen continues, seeing the emotion on Mark's face. She said you were the most upright man she knew, that Anna was the sweetest child in the world. When I saw the sticker on your truck last night, I remembered the stories she told me. Why did we never meet? Rose protected your family life. She used to say that work was work, but home was sacred. She only brought home the people who truly mattered. Helen gently touches Mark's arm. She told me once that if I ever truly needed help, you would be the first people I could trust. Mark feels his eyes fill with tears. Even 5 years after her passing, Rose continues to care for the people she loves, putting them in each other's paths when they need it most. She was right, he says simply. Helen smiles, and this time it's a smile full of gratitude and hope. Rose was always right. Helen's cell phone vibrates on the table, interrupting the moment. She looks at the screen and her expression hardens. Victor, Mark asks. Worse, my lawyer. Helen answers the call, putting it on speakerphone. Hello, Fiona? Helen, where are you? The woman's voice sounds tense through the phone. Victor filed an emergency petition alleging you've disappeared and are having a psychotic episode. The judge scheduled a hearing for tomorrow. Helen sinks into the chair. He can't do that. He can, and he did. He presented witnesses who say you approached them in recent weeks, talking about unfounded persecutions and sabotages. There's a psychiatric report recommending voluntary hospitalization. What report? I've never been to a psychiatrist. A Dr. Luke Carmichael. He says you visited his office 3 times in the last 2 weeks. Helen turns pale. That's a lie. I've never seen that man in my life. Helen, I need you to come to the office immediately. We have less than 24 hours to prepare a defense, and without you here I can't do anything. Helen looks at Mark, who watches the conversation with a grave expression. Fiona, can you give me 2 hours? I need to organize a few things first. 2 hours, Helen, no more than that, and bring everything you have against Victor. Documents, recordings, anything. This might be our only chance. The call ends, leaving the kitchen in heavy silence. Helen is visibly trembling, not from cold, but from a mix of anger and fear. He's destroying my life piece by piece, she whispers, and I can't do anything to stop him. Mark kneels beside her chair, looking into her eyes. Yes, you can. You said you have evidence against him. It's time to use them. What if he harms Clara? Rose taught me that sometimes the only way to protect those we love is to face danger. Head on, Mark says with conviction. You can't live running forever, Helen, and Clara can't grow up seeing her mother destroyed like this. Helen watches him for a long moment, seeing the quiet strength Rose always described. Mark might be a simple man, but there's a wisdom in his way of seeing the world that comes from the experience of having lost everything and rebuilt his life, focusing on what truly matters. "You're right," she says finally. "It's time to fight." Mark smiles, a smile that reminds Helen of Rose's descriptions of him. "Then let's fight. But first, you need a fee. Better strategy than showing up at your lawyer's office without a plan. What do you suggest? How about we retrieve those pieces of evidence you hid before meeting your lawyer? If you're going into battle, it's best to go armed with everything you've got." Helen feels hope for the first time in weeks. Maybe Rose had been right about Mark. Maybe she had finally found someone she could completely trust. The drive to the bank in the neighboring town unfolds in tense silence. Helen watches the landscape through the window of Mark's pickup truck, green fields alternating with small industrial towns. For the first time in weeks, she feels she's not alone in this battle. "You don't have to do this," she says when they stop at a traffic light. "You don't have to get involved in my problems." Mark keeps his eyes on the road. "Rose always said that good people's problems become the problems of the whole community. Besides," he glances at her, "you're Rose's friend. That makes you family." The simplicity with which he speaks of loyalty and responsibility moves Helen. In the corporate world she lived in, relationships were calculated, interests were negotiated. Mark's direct honesty is like a breath of fresh air. "Tell me about Victor," Mark asks as they drive down the city's main avenue. "How did you two meet?" Helen sighs. "At a business sustainability conference 8 years ago. He seemed genuinely interested in environmental causes, had reforestation projects, recycling programs. I thought we shared the same values." "And did you?" "He was convincing, charming, intelligent, generous." Helen laughs bitterly. "I only found out later that it was all a facade. The environmental projects were for tax reduction, not conviction. When Clara was born, the mask began to slip." They stop in front of a small, discreet bank, quite different from the pompous branches in the capital city centre. Helen takes a deep breath before getting out of the pickup truck. "How long do you think we'll be?" Mark asks. 20 minutes, maybe 30. There are a lot of documents." Inside the bank, Helen is attended by a young manager who clearly knows her. "Mrs. Miller, it's been a while since you've been here. How's the company doing?" "It's complicated, Mr. Peter. That's why I'm here. The safe deposit box is in the bank's basement in a quiet and well-protected area." Helen inserts her key and digital password, and the small steel door opens, revealing several organized folders and some flash drives. "Rose taught me to always keep copies of important documents away from home," Helen explains as she organizes the papers. "She used to say that information is power, and power needs to be protected." The documents Helen retrieves from the safe deposit box tell a sordid story of manipulation and blackmail, fraudulent contracts, recordings of conversations where Victor admits to having sabotaged Helen's businesses, copies of checks paid to private investigators for espionage, and most shocking, a falsified medical report suggesting Helen's emotional instability, dated even before the car accident. "He had been planning this for months," Helen murmurs, flipping through the papers. "Look at the date of this fake psychological report. March. The accident was in April." Mark examines the documents over her shoulder. "And this check here, paid to whom?" "The investigation company he hires. Look at the amount, $15,000. And here, in the observations field, continuous surveillance, HM, daily reports." Helen feels nauseous. "He had been spying on me for months." She picks up one of the flash drives and connects it to a tablet she brought in her bag. Audio files open, revealing telephone conversations between Victor and third parties. "Listen to this," she says, pressing play on one of the files. Victor's voice echoes clearly through the tablet. "No matter the cost, I want detailed reports of all her movements. Who she talks to, where she goes, what cars she uses, and if they can plant any evidence of erratic behavior, even better." A second voice replies, "And if she discovers the surveillance?" "She won't discover it. And even if she does, who will believe her? We've already planted the idea that she's unstable. A little more pressure and she'll truly snap." Helen stops the recording, visibly shaken. This conversation is from 2 months ago. I was starting to feel paranoid, thinking I was being followed. Now I know my instinct was right. Mark places his hand on her shoulder. This is more than enough to prove his bad faith. With these recordings, any judge will see that you are the victim, not the aggressor. There's more, Helen says, opening another folder. Documents proving that Victor diverted funds from his company to pay for this entire operation against me. And here, she points to a technical report, the actual analysis of my car done by an independent mechanic whom Victor couldn't buy off. The report is technical, but the conclusion is clear. The brakes were intentionally sabotaged, with precise cuts indicating advanced mechanical knowledge. How did you get this if Victor bought the first mechanic's silence? Helen smiles for the first time since they entered the bank. Rose taught me something else. Always have a plan B. When the first mechanic changed his story, I took the car to a second professional in another town without giving my real name. I paid in cash and requested total confidentiality. They spend the next 15 minutes organizing all the documents in chronological order, creating a clear timeline of how Victor orchestrated his campaign of destruction against Helen. It's meticulous work, but necessary. Helen, Mark says when they finish organizing everything, can I ask you a personal question? Of course. Why didn't you use this evidence before? With all of this, you could have resolved the situation months ago. Helen is silent for a moment, putting the documents back into the folders. Fear, she finally admits. Fear of what Victor could do to Clara. If I confronted him directly. Fear that even with evidence the judicial system would protect him because he has more influence. And, she hesitates. And? Shame. Shame for having been so blind, for having believed him, for having put my daughter in danger by choosing the wrong man. Silent tears stream down Helen's bruised face. Rose was always so right about people. She saw through Victor's masks from the beginning, warned me several times. I didn't listen. Mark hands her a tissue. Rose made judgment errors too. The difference is she learned from them and moved on. You can do the same. They leave the bank, laden with hope and enough evidence to turn the tables. But when they reach the pickup truck, they find an envelope under the windshield wiper. Helen opens the envelope with trembling hands. Inside is a photo of Clara leaving school, clearly taken without the child's knowledge. On the back of the photo, a handwritten message. You have 1 hour to call, or we start talking to your daughter about how Mommy is sick. Helen drops the photo, as if it burned her hands. He knows we're here. He's following us. Mark looks around the parking lot, searching for signs of surveillance. Let's get out of here now. They get into the pickup truck quickly, and Mark drives out of town by a different route than the one they used to arrive. Only when they're on the road, on their way back, is Helen able to speak again. He touched Clara, Mark. He got close to my daughter. Her voice is charged with a cold anger Mark had never heard before. This went too far. What do you want to do? Helen picks up her cell phone and without hesitation dials Victor's number. He answers, on the first ring. I thought you'd take longer to call. His voice sounds through the speakerphone with irritating arrogance. You got close to my daughter, Helen says, and there's a chilling control in her voice that impresses Mark. That was a mistake. Your daughter. Helen, you need to understand that Clara is my daughter too, and I'm concerned about the unstable environment she's living in because of your erratic behavior. There's a pause on the other end of the line. I don't know what you're talking about, Helen. Your paranoia is getting worse. That's why I scheduled the emergency. Hearing you need help. I have the recordings, Victor, of your conversations with the investigators, of the payments, of everything. Another pause, longer this time. When Victor speaks again, his voice has lost its arrogance and taken on a threatening tone. If you have anything you think can harm me, I suggest you reflect carefully before using it, because I can do much worse things than take a picture of our daughter. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you. You may have found some interesting documents, but I have something much more valuable, access to Clara. And if you insist on this war, I can guarantee she'll grow up knowing what kind of unstable and dangerous mother you truly are. Helen closes her eyes, fighting against the wave of despair that threatens to engulf her. But then she feels Mark's hand squeeze hers, reminding her that she's not alone. "No," she says finally, and there's an iron determination in her voice. "I won't let you intimidate me anymore. I'll see you at the hearing tomorrow, Victor. But this time, I'm prepared." She hangs up before he can respond, leaving the pickup truck in silence. Her hands tremble slightly, but there's a relief on her face, as if an enormous weight has been lifted from her shoulders. "How do you feel?" Mark asks. "Scared," Helen admits, "but also free. For the first time in months, I feel like I have control over my own life." Mark smiles. "Rose would be proud of you." When they get back to the neighborhood, they stop at Anna's school first. The girl runs out when she sees the pickup truck, carrying a colorful school folder and a smile that lights up the day. "Helen!" she shouts, waving through the window. "How was the outing?" "Productive," Helen replies, and for the first time in a long time she is being completely honest. "Very productive." At home, while Anna does her homework at the kitchen table, Helen calls her lawyer and explains everything she discovered. Fiona remains silent for several minutes as Helen describes the contents of the documents. "Helen," the lawyer says finally, "this changes everything. With this evidence, we can not only defend ourselves against Victor's petition, but also counterattack. He could face serious criminal consequences." "I don't want to destroy him," Helen says, surprising herself. "I just want my life back, and I want to protect Clara." "I understand. But you need to understand that Victor won't give up easily. When people like him feel cornered, they can become dangerous." Helen looks at Anna, who draws quietly in her notebooks, and at Mark, who prepares dinner with calm and confident movements. "I know, but for the first time, I feel like I have people by my side who won't abandon me at the first sign of difficulty." "Who are these people?" Helen watches father and daughter interacting with affection and mutual respect and smiles. "Guardian angels that Rose sent to me." Night falls over the small house with a tranquility Helen hadn't felt in months. After a simple dinner of pasta with homemade tomato sauce, prepared by Mark with Anna's enthusiastic help, the three gather in the living room. Anna draws in her notebook while the adults talk softly about the day's events. "Helen," Anna says suddenly without lifting her eyes from her drawing, "are you scared of tomorrow's hearing?" The child's direct question surprises Helen. She looks at Mark, who just nods encouragingly as if saying that Anna deserves honesty. "I am, sweetheart, but it's a different kind of fear than what I felt before." Anna stops drawing and looks at her with interest. "What do you mean?" "Before I was afraid because I felt alone and defenseless. Now I'm afraid because I know I'm going to fight, and fighting is always a little scary, but it's a good kind of fear." "How can fear be good?" Helen thinks about the question carefully. "When you ride a bike for the first time, you're afraid of falling, right? But you're also excited to learn something new. It's kind of like that." Anna smiles and returns to her drawing. "Daddy says fear is normal, but it can't stop us from doing what's right." "Your daddy is very wise." "Yes, he is." Anna shows the drawing she was making, 3 figures holding hands under a rainbow. "This is you, Daddy, and me. And this one here," she points to a smaller 4th figure beside them, "is Clara, for when she comes to visit us." Helen feels her chest tighten with emotion. Anna's ability to include people in her extended family, to welcome strangers naturally, is a testament to the upbringing Mark gave her. "Can I keep this drawing?" Helen asks. "Of course. I'll make a copy for you to take to the hearing. That way you'll remember you have a family here rooting for you." Mark observes the interaction between Helen and Anna with quiet satisfaction. For the past 5 years, he had worried about Anna not having consistent female figures in her life. Seeing how she naturally connects with Helen reassures him. "Anna, bath time," he announces when the clock strikes 8. "Can I take a bath by myself today? I'm grown up." Mark laughs. "You can, but leave the door unlocked for safety." When Anna disappears down the hallway, humming softly, Helen and Mark are left alone for the first time since morning. "Thank you," Helen says softly. "For what?" "For letting me be part of your routine today." for not making me feel like an intruder. Mark settles deeper into the armchair. You're not an intruder. Rose always said that home isn't a place, it's the people we choose to have around us. What was she like? Rose? Mark's face softens as he speaks of his wife. Determined, stubborn when she believed in a cause, laughed a lot, sang off-key in the shower, burned toast every morning because she got distracted reading the newspaper. He smiles at the memory, but mostly she was generous with time, with affection, with forgiveness. Anna speaks of her with so much affection. You've done an incredible job keeping her memory alive in a healthy way. It wasn't easy at first. Anna asked many questions I didn't know how to answer, but I learned that honesty, even when it hurts, is always better than pretty lies. Helen observes the photos of Rose scattered around the house. She looked very young. 28 years old when she passed. Anna was 3. A highway accident returning from a women's rights conference. Mark pauses. For a long time I blamed myself for not having gone with her on that trip. And how did you overcome that guilt? Anna. The answer is simple and direct. She needed a present father, not someone lost in the past. Rose wouldn't have approved if I had wallowed in guilt. Helen feels a deep connection with Mark's experience. Both know the weight of carrying responsibilities alone, of making difficult decisions, thinking about their children's well-being. Mark, can I ask you a personal question? You can. Have you never thought about dating again? Does Hannah always ask about it? Mark chuckles softly. Anna asks that question at least once a month. She thinks I need a girlfriend to be happy. But the truth is, Rose and I had something very special. I'm not looking to replace that. But would you be open to something different? The question hangs in the air between them, laden with a meaning they both recognize but neither dares to verbalize yet. Perhaps, Mark finally replies, if it were with the right person, someone who understood that Anna always comes first, that Rose will always be part of our story. That person would be very lucky, Helen says softly. They are interrupted by Anna, who returns from the bathroom area, wearing pink unicorn-patterned pajamas, her damp hair gleaming under the living room light. Helen, are you sleeping here again tonight? If your dad doesn't mind. Please, Daddy. Helen makes me feel safe. Mark looks between the two and smiles. Of course. Helen can stay as long as she needs to. When Anna goes to bed, Helen helps Mark wash the dinner dishes. There's a comfortable domesticity to the activity, as if they had done it hundreds of times before. Mark, Helen says as she dries a bowl, what if I lose the hearing tomorrow? What if the evidence isn't enough? Then we keep fighting. A lost battle isn't a lost war. But what if he gets custody of Clara? What if... Mark stops washing the dishes and turns to her. Helen, stop. You're borrowing suffering from a future that might not even happen. What do you mean? Rose taught me this when Anna got very sick at 4 years old. I was terrified, imagining the worst-case scenarios, suffering over things that hadn't even happened yet. Rose said, Mark, you can suffer today for something bad that might happen tomorrow, and then suffer again tomorrow if it actually does. Or you can use that energy to fight the real problem of today. Helen reflects on those words. And what is the real problem of today? Ensuring you're prepared for the hearing, that you sleep well tonight, that you wake up tomorrow knowing you're not alone in this fight. They finish the dishes in comfortable silence. When Mark goes to check if Anna is asleep, he finds his daughter sitting on the bed, clearly waiting for him. Daddy, can I tell you a secret? Of course, sweetheart. I like Helen. She's kind and doesn't pretend to understand everything about being a child. And she has sad eyes, like yours were after Mommy passed away. Mark feels his heart tighten. You think my eyes are sad? They were, but since yesterday they're different, as if you remembered how to truly smile. Anna's perception of Mark's feelings is surprising and touching. And how do you feel about Helen being here? Happy. The house feels more complete. Anna snuggles under the covers. Daddy, do you think Helen and Clara will be okay? I think so. Sweetheart, Helen is a fighter just like you. Like me? Yes. Remember when you were learning to ride a bike and kept falling? But you kept trying. Anna laughs. I remember. I had purple knees for weeks. But you didn't give up. Helen is like that too. She might have fallen a few times, but she doesn't give up. Anna smiles sleepily. So, will she win tomorrow? Tomorrow she will fight, and regardless of the outcome, she'll be stronger for having tried. When Mark returns to the living room, he finds Helen organizing some documents on the coffee table, mentally, preparing for the next day. How are you feeling? Anxious? Hopeful? Grateful? Helen looks at him sincerely. Mainly grateful. I don't know how I would have gotten through this alone. You weren't meant to go through it alone. Rose made sure of that. Helen smiles. Do you really believe she brought us together? Mark sits beside her on the sofa, closer than he had been before. I believe good people are naturally drawn to each other. Rose simply facilitated the meeting. Mark, Helen says hesitantly, I need to tell you something about tomorrow. What? If things go badly, if Victor gets what he wants, I might have to disappear for a while, to protect Clara, to reorganize my life away from his influence. Mark feels a tightening in his chest that he hadn't expected. And if things go well? If they go well, Helen smiles shyly, I would very much like to introduce Clara to you, and perhaps discover if there's room in your lives for 2 more people. Helen, you don't have to answer now, she says quickly. I know it's too soon, that we barely know each other. But I wanted you to know that these 2 days here have been the best I've had in a long time. Mark looks into her green eyes, seeing vulnerability and hope in equal measure. For us too, Anna has already made plans to show her rock collection to Clara. Helen laughs, a genuine laugh that lights up her bruised face. Clara loves rocks too. She has a collection of crystals she found on the beach. Then they'll get along well. And us? Mark gently takes Helen's hand. I think Rose would approve, and if Rose approves, I trust it. Helen feels tears of relief burn in her eyes. For the first time in months, the future seems full of possibilities instead of just threats. Mark, can I ask you a favor? Anything. If tomorrow goes wrong, cherish the good memories we created here. Don't let sadness erase the happy moments. Mark squeezes her hand tighter. It won't go wrong, but if it does, I promise Anna and I will remember you as the brave woman who faced her fears for the love of her daughter. Helen leans in and kisses Mark's cheek softly. Thank you for everything. When they finally part ways to sleep, both carry in their hearts the feeling that their lives have changed forever in the last 2 days, and that regardless of what happens at the hearing, they found something precious in each other. The morning of the hearing dawns cloudy, with a fine drizzle that mirrors the tension in the air. Helen wakes before her alarm, after a night of sleep interspersed with anxious dreams. The smell of strong coffee and toast guides her to the kitchen, where she finds Mark preparing a hearty breakfast. Good morning, he says with an encouraging smile. Did you sleep well? More or less. Helen accepts the cup of coffee he offers her, noticing that he remembered how she likes it, strong and unsweetened. And you? Anna woke me up at 5 in the morning wanting to know if you were still here. She was worried you might have left during the night. As if she had heard her name, Anna appears in the kitchen, still in her pajamas, carrying a colorful school folder. Helen, I have something for you. She opens the folder and pulls out a carefully folded sheet of paper. It's the drawing I made yesterday, but improved. Helen unfolds the paper and feels her heart clench. The drawing now shows 4 figures, Mark, Anna, Helen, and a smaller girl who must be Clara, all holding hands under a bright sun. At the top of the sheet, Anna wrote in neat letters, Families are made of love, not blood. Anna, Helen whispers, kneeling down to the girl's height. This is beautiful. So you don't forget that you have people here who care about you, Anna explains seriously. Daddy taught me that when you truly care about someone, you stand by that person in difficult times. Helen hugs Anna carefully, trying not to shed tears on the drawing. Thank you, sweetheart. I'll keep this forever. And will you win today? I'll fight the best I can. Anna smiles contentedly. Then you'll definitely win. Daddy always says that when you fight for what's right, You always gain something, even if it's not exactly what you expected. An hour later, Mark drops Anna off at school and heads with Helen to the capital's courthouse. The building is imposing, with marble columns and intimidating staircases. Helen takes a deep breath before ascending the steps, firmly holding the folder with all the evidence. "Remember," Mark says before. They part ways at the entrance. "You are not alone. Rose is with you, I am with you, Anna is with you. What if it's not enough?" Mark takes her hands in his. "It will be. But even if it isn't, you'll know you did everything you could. And that's what matters." Inside the courthouse, Helen meets her lawyer, Fiona, a middle-aged woman with graying hair and a penetrating gaze. She examines the documents Helen brought with a look of growing approval. "This is even better than I imagined," Fiona murmurs, flipping through the transcribed recordings. "With this evidence, we can not only defend ourselves, but also counterattack with full force." "Fiona," Helen says nervously, "I need you to know that I don't want to destroy Victor. I just want my daughter back and my life in peace. I understand your position, but we need to show the judge the seriousness of the situation. Victor orchestrated a systematic campaign of destruction against you. This cannot go unaddressed." When they enter the courtroom, Victor Carmichael is already there with his two lawyers, men in expensive suits and confident expressions. Victor is impeccable, as always, but Helen notices signs of tension in his posture. Clearly, he hadn't expected her to show up prepared. The judge, Judge Aaron Salinger, is a man of about 50 with a graying beard and an attentive gaze. He quickly reviews the case files before calling the session to order. "We are here to consider the emergency petition by Mr. Victor Carmichael requesting temporary custody of his minor daughter, alleging emotional instability on the part of the mother," the judge announces. "Mr. Carmichael, you may present your arguments." Victor stands with the confidence of someone who believes victory is guaranteed. "Your Honor, my ex-wife has demonstrated erratic and paranoid behavior in recent weeks. She disappeared from home for 2 days without providing any information about her whereabouts, has made unfounded accusations against me and third parties, and according to a medical report we've attached to the files, shows clear signs of emotional instability that endanger our daughter's well-being." He gesticulates dramatically as he speaks, painting Helen as an unstable and dangerous woman. "I fear for Clara's safety, Your Honor. A mother who sees conspiracies where none exist does not provide a safe environment for raising a child." When Victor finishes, the judge turns to Fiona. "Fiona, would you like to speak?" Fiona calmly stands. "Yes, Your Honor, but first I would like to present some evidence that has just come to our attention." She approaches the judge's bench with an organized folder. What Mr. Carmichael calls paranoia is, in fact, the result of a systematic campaign of persecution and intimidation that he himself orchestrated against my client. Victor's lawyer abruptly stands. "Your Honor, these alleged pieces of evidence were not submitted within the legal time frame." "Counselor," the judge interrupts him with a firm voice, "these pieces of evidence are in the interest of justice and will be analyzed." "Continue, Fiona." Fiona turns to Helen with an encouraging nod. "Your Honor, I would like to call my client to testify." Helen stands with trembling legs but with determination in her heart. She touches Anna's folded drawing in her pocket and takes a deep breath. "Mrs. Helen," Fiona begins, "can you tell us what really happened in the last few weeks?" Helen looks directly at the judge, ignoring Victor's intimidating gaze. "Your Honor, for months I have been watched, persecuted, and intimidated by my ex-husband. He sabotaged my car, causing an accident that could have been fatal, planted false medical reports to question my sanity, and yesterday went so far as to threaten our daughter." She takes her cell phone from her bag. "I have here the recording of yesterday's conversation where he clearly threatens me." With the judge's authorization, Fiona plays the recording. Victor's voice echoes clearly through the room. "I can do much worse things than take a picture of our daughter. I can guarantee she'll grow up knowing what kind of unstable and dangerous mother you truly are." The silence in the room is deafening. Victor is visibly pale, realizing that his own arrogance betrayed him. Mrs. Helen, the judge asks directly, where have you been for the past 2 days? At a friend's house, Your Honor. People who took me in when I had nowhere to go, who helped me organize this evidence and gave me the courage to be here today. And why did it take so long to present this evidence? Helen swallows hard. Fear, Your Honor. Fear of what he could do to Clara if I confronted him. But I realized that remaining silent was only allowing him to continue systematically destroying me. The judge turns to Victor. Mr. Carmichael, would you like to comment on these recordings? Victor whispers something to his lawyer before responding. Your Honor, this recording was taken out of context. I was concerned about my daughter's well-being. Mr. Carmichael, the judge interrupts him dryly, you threatened to use your daughter as a weapon against her mother. That is clear in the recording. There is no context that justifies such behavior. Victor tries to argue, but the judge raises his hand to silence him. Furthermore, the documents presented by the defense show a pattern of abusive and manipulative behavior that cannot be ignored. The judge pauses for a moment, organizing the papers in front of him. I will retire to analyze the evidence. We will return in 1 hour. During the recess, Helen and Fiona wait in the hallway. Helen is visibly nervous, pacing back and forth. How do you think it's going? Helen asks. Better than I expected, Fiona answers honestly. The judge is clearly shocked by the evidence. Victor hanged himself with his own rope by making those recorded threats. What if he tries something against Clara for revenge? He won't try anything. After today, any suspicious movement from him will be closely monitored. When they return to the room, the judge has a severe expression. Victor is visibly tense while Helen feels a strange calm taking hold of her. After a careful analysis of the evidence presented, the judge announces, I determine the following. Mr. Victor Carmichael's emergency petition is denied. The evidence clearly shows that Mrs. Helen's alleged instability is the result of systematic persecution orchestrated by the petitioner himself. Victor turns pale, but the judge isn't finished. Furthermore, I order Mr. Victor Carmichael to maintain a minimum distance of 500 yards from Mrs. Helen and her daughter, except during previously scheduled supervised visits. I also order that a criminal investigation be opened to ascertain the crimes of persecution, threat, and property damage evidenced in the proceedings. Helen feels her legs give way with relief. Fiona discreetly supports her as the judge continues. Custody of minor Clara remains with the mother, and I recommend psychological counseling for the entire family to process the trauma caused by this situation. When they leave the courthouse, Helen can still barely believe she won. Fiona hugs her with a radiant smile. You were incredible in there, the lawyer says. Speaking with such clarity, even under pressure, was crucial. I wasn't alone, Helen replies, touching Anna's drawing in her pocket. I had people rooting for me. In the parking lot, she calls Mark immediately. How did it go? He answers anxiously. We won, Helen says, and then begins to cry, tears of relief, gratitude and hope. We won, Mark. I can pick up Clara today. Helen, that's wonderful. The joy in Mark's voice is contagious. Anna will be ecstatic. Mark, Helen says through tears, can I ask one more thing? Anything. Would you and Anna like to come with me to pick up Clara? I want her. To meet the people who took care of her mommy when she needed it most. The pause on the other end of the line is laden with emotion. It would be an honor, Mark finally replies. Helen hangs up the phone and looks at the cloudy sky, which now seems to be starting to clear. For the first time in months, the future shines with infinite possibilities. The trip to the capital is different from any other Helen has made. For the first time in months, she isn't fleeing from something, but heading towards something wonderful. Mark drives calmly while Anna chatters excitedly in the back seat, asking 1,000 questions about Clara. Does she like to draw? What's her favorite color? Can she ride a bike? Does she have any pets? Helen laughs, a genuine laugh that sounds strange to her own ears after so long. She loves to draw, especially landscapes. Her favorite color is purple like violets. She's still learning to ride a bike, and she has a hamster named Puffy. Puffy! Anna claps her hands. What a funny name. Can I meet Puffy too? Mark looks in the rearview mirror. Anna, calm down. Let's meet Clara. First, then we'll see about the rest. Sorry, Daddy, I'm just very excited. Helen turns in her seat to look at Anna. I'm excited too, sweetheart, and a little nervous as well. Why nervous? Because I haven't seen my daughter in 3 weeks. That's a long time when you're 9 years old. Anna reflects on that with seriousness. When Daddy was away for a long time because of work, I was afraid he might have forgotten me. But he always came back the same. And how did you know he hadn't forgotten? He would hug me in a special way, sing our bedtime song, and remember all the little things I had told him. Anna smiles. Mothers don't forget those things. The simplicity of Anna's observation touches Helen deeply. Children have a unique way of going straight to the heart of matters. When they arrive at Helen's sister's apartment, Olivia's, the nervousness increases. Helen takes a deep breath before ringing the doorbell, holding Mark's hand to give herself courage. Olivia opens the door with an immense smile of relief. Helen, she hugs her sister tightly. When you called to say you had won, I almost didn't believe it. I almost didn't believe it either, Helen admits. Olivia, these are Mark and Anna, the friends who helped me. Olivia greets Mark with evident gratitude. I don't know how to thank you for taking care of my sister. No need to thank me, Mark replies. It was a privilege. And you must be Anna. Olivia kneels to the girl's height. Clara is very curious to meet you. She spent all day asking what the girl who drew you all together would be like. Anna smiles shyly, suddenly becoming shyer now that the moment has arrived. Where is she? Helen asks, barely able to contain her anxiety. In her room organizing the drawings she made for you. She wants to show you everything. Olivia guides them through the living room to a short hallway. Clara, she calls softly. Mommy's here. The bedroom door slowly opens and a 9-year-old girl appears. Clara has dark brown hair like Helen, bright green eyes, and a cautious expression that reminds one of her mother. She stops at the door, observing the group of people in the living room. Hi, my love, Helen says softly, kneeling on the floor. Clara observes her for a moment that seems eternal. Helen can see the child evaluating, checking if her mother is truly well, if it's safe to run into her arms. Mommy, Clara whispers finally, are you better? I'm much better, my princess, and now I can take care of you again. That's all Clara needs to hear. She runs across the room and throws herself into Helen's arms, who hugs her as if she would never let her go. I missed you, Clara murmurs in her mother's ear. I missed you too, my love, every second of every day. Mark observes the reunion with an emotional smile, remembering how Anna reacted when he returned from longer work trips. Anna is beside him, also observing with respectful curiosity. After a few minutes of hugs and happy tears, Helen pulls back slightly to look into her daughter's face. Clara, I want you to meet the people who took care of her mommy when she needed it most. Clara turns to Mark and Anna, still holding her mother's hand firmly. This is Mark, and this is Anna. They gave me a safe place to stay and helped me be brave again. Thank you, Clara says seriously, with the formality of children in important moments. Thank you for taking care of my mother. Anna steps forward. Hi, Clara. I brought something for you. She extends a small, colorful paper package. It's a special rock I found on the beach. Daddy said rocks hold good energy. Clara accepts the gift carefully, unwrapping it slowly. Inside is a smooth, rounded stone, grey-blue with white veins. It's beautiful, Clara whispers. Thank you. Do you want to see my crystal collection? She asks Anna. They're in my room. Anna looks at Mark, who nods approvingly. I'd love to. The two girls disappear down the hallway, leaving the adults in the living room. Olivia serves coffee while Helen recounts all the details of the hearing. I still can't believe it's over, Helen says, accepting the cup of coffee. For so long, I thought Victor would always be one step ahead. He underestimated you, Mark observes. He thought you'd always be on the defensive. I would have been if it weren't for you. Helen looks at Mark with gratitude. You taught me that sometimes the only way to protect those we love is to face danger head-on. From the girls' room, laughter and lively chatter can be heard. Olivia smiles. I haven't heard Clara laugh like that in weeks. She was so worried about you. How was she coping with my absence? Better than I expected, actually. She asked about you every day, but she wasn't inconsolable. I think deep down she knew you'd come back. Mark listens to the conversation, thinking about how Anna would react if he had to be away for some time. The trust children place in their parents is both inspiring and daunting. Helen, Olivia says hesitantly, can I ask what's going to happen now? Are you going back home? Helen exchanges a meaningful look with Mark. Actually, I'm thinking of making some changes. The company needs a restructuring after everything that happened, and she hesitates. And, Mark encourages, and I discovered that the life I thought I wanted might not be the life that truly makes me happy. Olivia frowns. What do you mean? I lived the last 2 days in the simplest way possible. Family breakfast, sincere conversations, mutual care without ulterior motives. And I realized that this simplicity makes me happier than all the million-dollar contracts I've ever signed. Are you thinking of moving? Helen looks at Mark. I'm thinking of starting over. In a place where Clara can grow up safely, where I can rebuild the company focusing on what truly matters. And where would that place be? Mark asks, though his smile suggests he already knows the answer. A place where there are people who believe that families are made of love, not blood. Before Mark can respond, the two girls run back into the living room, each carrying paper and crayons. Let's draw together, Anna announces. Clara will teach me how to draw landscapes, and I'll teach her how to draw people. And where will we draw? Helen asks. At the kitchen table like a real family, Clara replies, and there's a naturalness in her voice that surprises all the adults. They settle around Olivia's table, and Helen watches the daughters, because she already thinks of Anna that way, collaborating on their drawings. Clara patiently shows how to make trees that look real, while Anna teaches tricks for drawing facial expressions. Clara, Mark asks as he draws a sun in the corner of his sheet, do you like pancakes? I love pancakes. Why? Because I make the best pancakes in the world, Anna can confirm. Anna laughs. It's true, Daddy makes pancakes in the shape of animals. What animals? Butterflies, kittens, sometimes elephants when he's feeling brave. Clara looks at Helen with shining eyes. Mummy, can I try Mark's pancakes? If he invites us, of course. Mark and Helen exchange glances over the girls' heads, and there's a silent communication between them. How about tomorrow? Mark suggests. You could come have breakfast with us. And then I can show my rock collection to Clara, Anna adds excitedly. And my crystal collection to Anna, Clara completes. Helen feels her heart overflow with happiness. I think that would be wonderful. Olivia observes the interaction with a knowing smile. Helen, she whispers when the girls are distracted with their drawings, you're in love. I'm in love with many things, Helen replies softly, with the possibility of a different future, with the idea of an expanded family, with the chance for Clara to grow up surrounded by unconditional love. And with Mark. Helen looks at the man who changed her life in just a few days. He is patiently helping Clara draw a cat, his voice soft and encouraging, his gestures gentle and sure. Yes, she admits. With Mark, too. When it's time to say goodbye, Clara hugs Anna as if they were long-lost friends. See you tomorrow, Anna says. I'm going to make a special drawing for you. I'll make one for you too, Clara promises. In the car on the way home, Helen holds Clara's hand and watches Anna in the back seat, who has fallen asleep hugging one of the drawings Clara made for her. Mark, Helen says softly so as not to wake Anna. Thank you. For what? For giving me a family when I needed it most, for showing that love has no limits or conditions, for being exactly who you are. Mark squeezes her hand. Thank you for trusting us, for letting us take care of you. Clara, who had been observing the interaction between the adults with curiosity, smiles. Mommy, I like him. Me too, my love. Me too. 6 months later, the aroma of butterfly-shaped pancakes wakes Helen on a sunny Saturday morning. She smiles even before opening her eyes, recognizing the familiar sounds of the house. Mark humming softly in the kitchen, Anna and Clara laughing in the next room. the gentle clatter of dishes being organized. In 6 months, her life had completely changed. The company was restructured with a focus on community projects. She and Clara moved into a house just 2 blocks from Mark and Anna, and what began as an emergency shelter blossomed into something much larger. "Good morning, sleepyhead." Mark appears at the bedroom door with a cup of coffee, wearing the ridiculous apron with kitten drawings that Clara bought for him the previous month. "Good morning to you too," Helen replies, accepting the coffee and pulling him in for a morning kiss. "Have the girls woken up yet?" They woke up at 6 in the morning, planning some adventure in the park. Something about building a tree house, actually a fort made of branches they found yesterday. Helen laughs. The friendship between Anna and Clara developed naturally and intensely. They became sisters by choice, spending weekends together, sharing secrets and dreams, creating a bond that fills Helen's heart with joy. "And how is the NGO project going?" Mark asks, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Better than I imagined. We already have 12 families in the temporary shelter program, and 3 women have managed to fully re-establish themselves and are living independently again." 3 months ago, Helen made the decision to turn part of her personal experience into help for other women. She created an NGO providing shelter for vulnerable women, offering temporary housing, legal support, and, most importantly, an emotional support network. "Fiona said Victor's case is going to trial next month." Helen nods. "Yes, but I'm not worried about it anymore. He lost all the power he had over me. Now it's just a matter of justice." Victor attempted some legal maneuvers in the months following the hearing, but all were dismissed. The criminal investigation revealed a pattern of abusive behavior that extended beyond his relationship with Helen, including other ex-girlfriends who were emboldened to speak out after seeing Helen win in court. "Mommy! Mark!" Clara comes running into the room, followed by Anna. "Can we have breakfast in the backyard? It's so lovely outside." "Of course, Princess," Helen replies. "But first you two help set the table." "We already set it," Anna proudly announces. "We even put out flowers we picked from Mrs. Peterson's garden." Mrs. Peterson, Mark's elderly neighbor, became a kind of adopted grandmother to the girls. She teaches Clara how to care for plants and tells old stories to Anna, creating a network of community affection that Helen never imagined possible. Breakfast in the backyard becomes a small festival. The butterfly-shaped pancakes are devoured with enthusiasm, while the girls recount their elaborate plans for the day. Helen observes the scene with quiet gratitude, still sometimes barely believing that this is truly her life now. "Helen," Mark says softly as the girls run off to play in the backyard, "can I tell you something?" "Of course." "I dreamed of Rose last night. She was smiling, saying she was proud of us." Helen takes his hand across the table. In recent months, they have learned to include Rose's memory in their new family in a healthy and loving way. Rose is not a shadow of the past, but a loving presence that blesses the present. What else did she say? That Anna finally has the maternal figure she deserved, that Clara found a family that loves her unconditionally, and that he hesitates. "And that I finally understood that the heart has no limits, that loving you doesn't diminish the love I feel for her." Helen feels tears burn her eyes. She was right. The heart only grows. "Helen," Mark says suddenly, standing up and taking something from his pocket, "there's a question I've wanted to ask for weeks." Helen looks at him in surprise as he kneels beside her chair, holding a small velvet box. "Mark, I know it's still early. I know our story began unconventionally. But I also know that you and Clara brought a light into our lives that didn't exist before." He opens the box, revealing a simple but beautiful ring with a green stone that resembles Helen's eyes. "Will you marry me? Will you turn this chosen family into an official family?" Helen looks at the ring, then at Mark, then at the girls playing in the backyard, Anna teaching Clara to do somersaults on the grass. The scene is so perfect, so full of love and possibilities, that she can barely speak. "Yes," she whispers, then louder, "Yes, I will." Mark slides the ring onto her finger with slightly trembling hands. "There's one more thing. I spoke with Anna about this yesterday, and she has a question to ask Clara. As if she had heard her name, Anna comes running, holding a small, colourful package. Clara, come here, I have something important to give you. Clara approaches curiously, while Helen and Mark watch with huge smiles. Clara, Anna says seriously, Daddy and Helen are getting married, and we're going to be a real family, so I want to give you this. She hands the package to Clara, who opens it carefully. Inside is a simple bracelet with 2 small stones, one blue and one purple. The blue stone is me, the purple one is you, to remember that now we're sisters forever. Clara looks at the bracelet, then at Anna, then at the adults who watch, moved. Forever, really? She asks. Forever, really, Anna confirms, with sisterly squabbles and everything. Clara laughs and hugs Anna tightly. Then I accept being your sister. Helen feels her heart overflow. In less than a year, her life had gone from a nightmare of persecution and fear to a dream of love and family. Mark, she says softly as they watch the girls playing together, there's something I want to do. What? I want our wedding to be at the NGO. I want the women we're helping to see that it's possible to start over, that it's possible to find love and happiness after trauma. Mark smiles. Perfect. And I want it to be simple, with the people who truly matter. Can the girls be our flower girls? Of course. And Anna already said she wants to give a speech. About what? About how families are made of love, not blood. Apparently it's her favorite theme now. 3 months later, on a sunny autumn afternoon, Helen and Mark get married in the garden of the NGO she created. It's a small and intimate ceremony, with Anna and Clara as flower girls, Mrs. Peterson as honorary bridesmaid, and 12 women the NGO had helped as special guests. When the Justice of the Peace asks if Helen accepts Mark as her husband, she looks at the man who took her in when she needed him most and says with a firm and clear voice, I do. I accept you. I accept Anna. I accept this family we've built together in love and mutual trust. When Mark makes the same vows to her and Clara, there are no dry eyes in the small crowd. Anna gives her promised speech, talking about how Daddy taught her that helping people is what makes us human, and how Helen taught her that courage isn't not being afraid, but doing what's right even when you are afraid. And now, Anna concludes with the seriousness of her 10 years, we are a complete family. Daddy has someone to talk to about grown-up things. I have a sister to share secrets with. Clara has a dad who makes animal-shaped pancakes, and all of us have enough love to last forever. The impromptu party extends until late afternoon, with music, dancing, and many shared stories. Helen observes her new family blended with her chosen family, the women from the NGO, the neighbors, Fiona, who became a personal friend, and feels deep gratitude for every choice that brought her here. As night falls, Mark, Helen, Anna, and Clara return home together. The girls fall asleep in the back seat of the pickup truck, exhausted but happy, while Helen watches the rings sparkle in the light of the street lamps. Mark, Helen says softly, thank you. For what? For opening the door that night, for choosing to help a desperate stranger. Mark takes her hand and squeezes it gently. You weren't a stranger. You were family we hadn't met yet. Helen smiles, looking at her. Daughters sleeping peacefully in the back seat. Rose chose well when she chose you. She chose well when she brought us to each other too. When they arrive home, they carry the sleeping girls to their rooms, now divided between the 2 houses that have become an extended home. Helen touches the framed drawing on the hallway wall, the same one Anna made on the first night, now updated to show 4 figures holding hands under a rainbow, with a 5th winged figure smiling from the sky. Good night, Rose, she whispers. Thank you for sending me home. End of story. Dear listeners, we hope that the story of Helen, Mark, Anna, and Clara has deeply touched your hearts. This journey of overcoming love and family reminds us that even in the darkest moments, there is always hope and people willing to reach out to help us. If this narrative moved you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave a like on this video. we have a special playlist with equally captivating stories waiting for you. Find it by clicking the link here to the side. Every day we bring unique accounts that explore the complexity and beauty of human life. We want to know what you thought of this story in the comments. What moment moved you the most? Have you experienced similar situations? Share your experiences with us. Until the next story, and remember, families truly are made of love, not blood.